title to correct me if I'm wrong. Last week, we had a little bit of a special. We had EU, NA, China, Korea, all in one call, despite everybody being from North America in one way or another. I got my European privilege provoked for saying that, and I'm not getting it anytime soon, and that's fine because I don't need it, because we've got two very important matchups against Europe coming up this week. G2 versus NRG, the black and whites versus the black and whites, and then we have El Clasico, C9 versus Fnatic. Was the last time they played 2018?
No clue.
All right, we won't mention
I don't
it.
know if I'd call that played because we got fucking reamed.
Hey,
At least he's
sounds
self-aware.
about right.
So to introduce our special guest, returning from last week, we got Jake. He coaches here, both in North America and abroad. He put out a very good Medium post today going over his past year. I don't know if you want to speak on that at all real quick.
Sure. I mean, it was just a big recap because I've been mostly in the shadows for the past year, for most of the public eye, given I wasn't like actually coaching the team. But yeah, I was spending time in America, and then all the other things I was doing, I just posted a quick recap. Figured I will most likely still like posting a normal LFT, but it's just something extra to have out there. I think it's just nice to have if you're interested in me and what I do. So, hey, it's out there for anyone to see.
Highly recommend checking it out. On the other side, we've got the man himself, the mid laner for the needlessly large rods, a New York City League of Legends veteran, a guy that I still technically owe one additional drink to for a bet that I can't quite remember what it was, but I just know I owe him a drink still.
Twitter's still alive, David.
Oh yeah, I bet that Twitter would die back during the panic days. That's on me. But alas, here we are. Nick, Blue, how you doing?
Well, you know, just chilling, apprehensive for this weekend.
Why apprehensive? You're not positive? Come on.
Well, I know that what I will say, and hopefully you guys both agree with me because it's only logical, is that Cloud9 Fnatic is going to be a lot closer than G2 NRG.
Well,
You're
can agree
right.
there.
NRG's gonna stomp the shit out of them.
No, that's just NA opium right there, David.
I know it is. I know. I can't even. I'm not even gonna try and hide it or lie. Like we need to drag G2 down into the mud with us, and pray to God that we can win the pig fight.
I mean, look, it should be a stomp, but G2 or G2 at the end of the day. They will, fuck around and they might find out, You never know.
Is there any lane that you would give us in that matchup?
It's genuinely.
What's the closest thing to giving us a lane you would do for a player in equivalency?
It has to be mid lane, right? Or well, no.
No, it has to be jungle, I think.
Yeah, jungle.
Because Yike has to pull off one of his crazy invades with 0 prio or something. I think that's the most I can give you, realistically. There can also be some random, a bit too hype of a pick that may occur, One of those could also happen, but I doubt they would pull it out in that series. I think they would rather hide it for later,
I think we've all seen Broken Blade like have a whiff of a series, and usually the rest of G2 kind of keeps him go. You know what I mean? Like he gets a little bit too. I don't know the right word. You know what I mean? Like he'll have a bad series.
More consistent ones, actually.
Yeah, like he'll run it down a little bit, but is Dokla a player that you expect to capitalize on a bad BB series? And I'll say we've already seen that matchup.
I talked last week about Dokla.
I mean, look, he beat Summit.
Right.
And he beat I don't even know who the top laner for Mad Lions is. I can't even remember at this point.
Chasey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Mad are Mad, right? They are just an EU team who plays in Europe and should stop there, unfortunately. As we've seen time and time again now. I don't know what's up, because I do like their stuff. Because I was in talks before with Mac and Pat, sorry. I think they're quite competent in what they do. I just don't get what's happening. To be fair, I will say this words. Mac is not with the team. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah,
but he's having a child. Yeah.
Was his child officially born yet, or are they still expecting?
I think they're expecting stuff.
Okay, I was gonna
Yeah,
say if a congratulations is in order, then absolutely we do.
I believe not yet,
Okay, because
but soon.
I
Hopefully,
agree with you that I
healthy
think
and
that
everything.
the Mac difference is massive.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it should affect. I mean, it depends how how they run the ship at the end of the day. Because him and Pat have been together for a long time now, and he's been like his right hand man for a long time, right? So he picked up a lot of things from him and everything. And I think the team, I would assume, has like a lot of trust also in Pad. And Mac, of course, is still helping remotely. It's not the same, but he's still a part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird with how mad always are, unfortunately, internationally.
I mean, they still got a chance though. Who do they
I
play
mean, of
against
course,
this
of
week?
course.
Damon or D plus Kia?
This week. Let
Pretty
me
sure it's
see.
D plus.
Mad play Weibo.
Oh, Weibo. Oh, never mind. They're done. Yeah, never mind.
And it is still Weibo though. You know?
I mean, I agree, but like G2 barely squeaked it out. For whatever reason, Europe just has not had a good track record against the LPL historically.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
gap, bro.
always been the
G2's
issue.
magical.
Say
I
again,
think we
sorry?
all know that G2's the team that is the only team that really, I guess statistically speaking, gets close to the East-West gap.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
there's no other team other than, I guess we could say, David's gonna hate me, 2018 Cloud9 3-0ing a Freak of Freaks. That's the only other time it's ever happened almost, except for, well, I guess, okay,
We had
Yeah.
Fnatic too.
2019 MSI with TL, I guess.
I would
Other than that, like,
also I would
what
argue
series have we
20.
ever?
What year was it that Fnatic went toe to toe with Jackie Love? Like it was reckless with
Yeah,
Jackie
yeah,
Love.
yeah.
Was
There
that?
was there was a Worlds with Fnatic and Origin both making top 4, for example, also for Europe.
Hmm,
I don't know what
that was
their
way
path
back though.
was.
Origin
Yeah.
No, no,
is
no, no.
what,
I'm talking.
2015?
I'm talking. There was a series where it was Fnatic versus an LPL team that Shox gave a monologue after they were 2-up or 2-0 up, and they got reverse swept. I think that was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. But it was the most cracked I've ever seen Reckless play in my life. Like he was throwing
see if I can
W's out across walls to stun Jackie Love as he's like flashing in, like it to escape away. Like it was the most absurd series that I've ever seen him play.
So 2018, Fnatic 3-1 the EG, then 3-0 C9, and then got 3-0 on finals.
Yeah.
Then there's
20
G2 who 3-2 then RNG, and then got 3-0 by IG. I'm not sure which worlds it would be then.
It had to have been 2020. I'm
check.
almost entirely certain it's 2020. Fnatic versus like Top or JDG or whatever team. Chad is saying
No,
2020
Fnatic just
Fnatic
lost.
TES.
Oh yeah, that was 3-2 to
Yeah, and they got a reverse swept. Like they were up 2-0 and looking phenomenal, and then got cursed.
Yeah. Yeah, that year also G2 3-0 the Gen G, and then lost 3-1 to Damwon. Yeah.
That
The
was
World's Finals.
I guess
Damon's
I would
revenge.
say maybe 2017 C9 versus WE. Was that 2017 where it was like
Checking.
literally one Draven crit off of a win for C9?
I want to say that was 2017. I think. Was it?
Yes, they lost 3-2 to World Elite, and then World Elite got 3-1 by SSG.
Yeah, so I mean the examples of the West coming even close to the East when it's not G2 is just comically thin. There's just not enough evidence, It's like,
Ooh. That Worlds actually we had the Misfits against the SKT 5 games. That was actually a really
right.
close one, like surprisingly close.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
was
that
one
was
of
a
the most
crazy
series
run.
I've ever watched.
That was actually wild.
I remember being only casually into competitive League of Legends at the time,
Mhm,
and then watching that series and that like knowing that Optic was going to be like coming into the LCS, and it was like that
Yeah.
sealed it for me. That was like, oh, I'm gonna love this game until the end of time. It's gonna be great.
It is hype.
Yeah, thank God you didn't put all your stakes on Optic. Look how that turned out.
It's different management, a different CEO. The Texas Rangers, who unfortunately, well, they've made the World Series now, but Neil Lieberman can freaking suck it. And I know chat's saying, who was in that series? Yes, Ignar. And guess who he happens to be playing for right now? NRG. So there's a man that knows how to win when it matters, or at least get close to winning and then unfortunately lose it. It would be him.
Ignar is not a very consistent player, though, from
No, he's not.
From what I recall. So
So Nick, do you have any faith at all that NRG could pull this out?
I mean, on the day, I'd give them 25-75. I guess that's like my top end.
So if
I
you're
think, honestly,
assuming,
I think G2 is too consistent and can just out hands diff them, even if NRG does some smart, map things.
so then follow
It's,
up to that.
the way I see it is it's basically like what C9 does with most of the other teams in the LCS, where it's like, okay, some games they absolutely crush when they have good macro, and some games they just win through pure hand stiff. I think G2 is good enough to do either.
So then follow-up question to that, is there any team besides Cloud9 that you think that NRG can beat, assuming they lose to G2 to qualify to knockouts?
Who would be their options? I don't even know.
Well,
Assuming-
Gambit Decay.
Assuming results go as expected,
Yeah.
D plus Kia, Weibo.
Is
KT
there,
or LNG,
is there an
assuming
EU team in
LNG.
there anywhere, or an NA team in there?
If Fnatic pulls off the upset, maybe. Or well, you would. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, you mean Mad?
Yeah, sorry, if Matt pulls out the up because I mean, if they go against C9, then yeah, I still favor NRG at the moment, but
Yeah,
I don't
not
want to see.
unreasonable.
I don't want to see NA versus NA to qualify.
I don't know. Cloud9's macro game in LNG looked really good, but then SKT happened, and now we cry a little bit.
You guys get your shit pushed in hard.
That we did.
I don't even know what to say about that game. It was so ugly.
I don't disagree with
That
you.
was close to a perfect game, I think, right? It was that one?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
only
it was
reason why it
Phil's
wasn't a perfect
tower
game is
or a
because
dragon, I forget which.
they just decided to run it down bot lane and grab a bot tower. That's the only
Oh,
reason
yeah.
why it wasn't a perfect game.
Yeah, it was not pretty.
I mean, it's SKT. They do this to us every year. I mean, it's so funny. They change the format, and we still draw SKT. Like, doesn't
Okay.
matter. We just gravitate to each other.
You guys cannot complain about draws, though.
Oh, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
well, actually, I don't know if we can't complain. I think it's more like we either get the best draw of all time or the worst draw of all time, and there's no in between.
Yeah,
That
but
I'll agree
as
with.
an A drawing Matt twice, I think it was, right? You should be
Okay.
happy with
True.
this.
True, yeah.
Okay, so can we talk about the draw? Because even as an NA fan, while I'm happy that one of the Western teams is getting out, and I think, like, obviously, if we're being honest, G2
what?
is probably... Wait, what?
None of the NA teams have made it out. What are you talking about?
I said Western teams.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Got a little excited there.
Yeah,
was
keep
like, what are you
grouping us
talking
like we're
about?
one.
we are one joint Western area. I refuse to accept any different.
True.
Even
Hey,
if-
we're Central, okay? Go ahead.
I mean, we get one team out no matter what. Do you feel good about that within the format, or no?
I mean, that's every year.
No, but
Pretty much.
this year is different. Like it is very clearly different by design given the format. Now G2 getting through, I'm honestly fine with given how they got into this matchup with NRG. Like I think they've earned it by beating D plus Kia, by beating Weibo. Like you've knocked off the 4 seeds there. That NA first seed does feel like an easier matchup after going against Shenji. So I'm fine with that, but it still feels like everywhere else, it feels like we're like Western teams are getting away with murder.
Like what? Like who?
I mean, the constant matchups against each other, right?
By winning against each other, I guess. But that just means you're funneling it earlier than you would in like a typical format. You're funneling it essentially earlier than you would if you had regular groups. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily though, because
Yeah.
there are repeat matchups available. That doesn't mean that. Like there's a
I just mean like in groups before, you couldn't take losses to your own region or your own, West versus East.
Yeah.
Like because you were you'd have one. Like you'd have an EU team in your group as NA pre-Swiss, right? So yeah, you might lose to a fellow West team or what have you, but you would never in groups be losing to your own region.
Yeah.
You never would take a loss, which pushes you towards being out of the tournament, is what I mean.
Or vice versa. You're using your own region to propel you further, which
Yeah, see,
Which I really don't like.
yeah, I don't like that either. I
That's
think
the
there
thing.
should have been like rules. There was even a post about this, about how Riot like either deliberately didn't or forgot to put rules in about rematch, either rematches or region rematches. I forget which.
I've
Yeah.
talked about this on Twitter, so I think I can publicly say it here. I can confirm it was intentional entirely. I talked to Chris Greeley at LCS
That's insane.
Finals and asked him specifically about this, and said, like, you understand the possible outcomes here that could happen with a Western team getting out entirely, not facing an Eastern team, or having like mirror matchups later if there are truly no rules. Like, you understand all this. And he said, yeah, we're gonna kind of let it go as it
It's
is.
like a
and if
test round,
Yeah, and
in a sense, yeah.
and I just,
I
I mean, I
mean,
said it in the moment, is like, yeah, I don't know. You could easily just get a committee, get a panel together, seed this properly so that you eliminate, like, yes, the chaos is fun, but like, if the point of Worlds is to blend entertainment and that, you could at least do pools or like something to just balance it out a little bit better.
honestly,
Yeah.
I think what they're doing is, because I've always had the mindset myself of, I don't look at like strength of schedule or anything like that. I don't really put too much like, I don't know the right word, like most sports fans do, strength of schedule and, oh, they've got an easy strength of schedule or whatever. So I think what they're doing is kind of just like, okay, let the chips fall where they may. You play whoever you play. It doesn't matter if they're from your region. You know what I mean? Like, the no rules, you're still playing the same amount of games. It's less entertainment, obviously, for the reasons you said, but at the end of the day, it's more competitive. So maybe they just, I don't know, decided that was worth the, I don't know, uneasiness that some people feel about that.
I don't think that's true though, is it? Because strength of schedule in Swiss stage 100% does matter. Like that
Incredibly, I think.
that is like, you cannot tell me that a team like, who's the worst example right now? Probably KT Rolster, of like the teams that they've gotten having never played.
Oh,
They
yeah.
didn't have to face a single Western team, and if they get out, you look at them and it's like, okay, they had to go through a hell of a lot of a different test than if NRG wins this series. NRG beat Mad Lions, G2, and
I agree with you. I'm just saying, I think they're saying it doesn't matter. If you want to win Worlds, you have to go through who we put in front of you.
I think that,
You know
but
what I
I
mean?
think
Like,
that's
I
bullshit.
agree with you. No, I
but
agree. I'm
it's
saying
not
I
just
agree.
about
I'm just
winning,
saying,
right?
Wait, what?
No, as in like, it's not just about the winner's path only. Everyone's path should matter.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think from the point of view of Riot, not
No,
disagreeing with you
I'll,
guys.
I'll
Just
tell.
purely like, this is what it looks like.
This
This is what
is
we decided to do.
this is me projecting, to be very clear. This is not reflective of any rioter that I've ever talked to, nor like anybody that I've had conversations with. I think they fully understand that there is nothing they can do to close the gap for North America and most of Europe. That the only way to counteract that is to introduce volatility that at least gives teams a chance to go up there and semi feel like they earned it. But the top teams will obviously still get there no matter what. Like, there was never a fear of JDG or Genji not getting out. And because of that, they're going to see that as like, okay, if JDG is going to do that,
I
and
mean,
we get
especially with best of threes and best of fives.
yeah, and as long
Like,
as they
anything
do,
can happen at a best of one. Like, as we saw with,
Of course.
oh my God, who bombed out the year Cloud9 made it to quarters?
oh, back in
Or
2021, the
semis.
06
The
FPX.
Or,
Messi?
yeah, FPX was like lauded as the tournament winners, and then they just like 1-5. So
I thought they went 0-6. Or did they go 1-5?
Wait. It's not 121. I'm looking.
It was
might have
definitely
been
2021 Worlds. Group A.
Oh, FPX went 2-4, yeah.
Oh, 2-4. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a three-way tie between Cloud9.
Yeah, three teams were 2-4, yeah. Cloud9,
Okay.
Rogue, and the FunPlus, yeah.
Yeah.
FunPlus, yeah.
Yeah, relative to expected, regular expectations, that's a total failure for FPX. But it's like, it proves that like having only best of ones to to get out is stupid.
Agree.
Agreed. Which is why, like, I love that we have best of threes now to qualify into knockout stage. That's amazing. That's good. But like at the same time, the matchups matter so much that it's like you have to. By all means, I love Swiss and I love the way it's going, and it's. I understand people were honestly very pissed at me for how much I reacted to round two's draw and like the signs that were starting to pop up. But just understand, we got blessed with these last two draws. There's an equal opportunity where it went the other way and everybody is freaking out. And that still could happen in the next round as well. There's no protection against that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always come back to the mentality of like, if you're a real winner, you don't care who you're facing next. Do you know what I mean? Like,
So, okay, an argument to that actually. If I'm G2, I don't want an easy path. I want to get pushed so I can actually make it further and have like having faced adversity and being pushed the whole way. So then I don't face NA EU. I make it out and then I face fucking JDG and I'm like, what's going on?
yeah,
This
it's
is
like
a whole different game,
it's like
right?
if you truly want to win, you want the hardest teams because you want to overcome them.
Yeah, but
And so
this
I
is the
think
issue with
that's
this
part of it.
format, right? Where
Yeah,
it can
exactly.
make stupid easy and stupid hard in both, and both can be like bad or good, which I just don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know. There needs to be better restrictions with either rematches or same region things. Because first draw was what, five same region things.
Yeah,
Matchups?
the round two draw was five
Insane.
domestic match. But here's the thing: that's actually not a problem, so long as you don't allow mirror matchup or like double jeopardy matches later on. Because if you, I understand not wanting to restrict domestic matchups because it does, like especially later, it really starts to pinch the pool, and you
Later
really
it's
start
fine,
dictating
for
matchups.
sure.
But if you make sure, if you put in that guarantee that once a team plays one another, they cannot do so for the rest of Swiss, I think you alleviate those problems because, as many people have pointed out, once you get that done in round two, then you're set for the rest of it. And that's what you want to happen in an ideal world where there is a random element to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Agree.
Now, a good example of the Swiss producing an amazing matchup is C9 and Fnatic. I'm excited for that. Very equal teams.
that's going to be
No
good.
sarcasm.
I mean, I think there's some sarcasm in that. I think it's legitimately going to be a close matchup.
It should be.
What would you give it numbers wise? Like odds?
I haven't watched all of the games is the issue because schedule is awful, and I've been a bit busy with stuff. Look, this is what I said last week. Also, I'm not too hopeful in Fnatic just because I'm not too hopeful in Nova. That's
Yeah,
simple.
and he has to go up against Berserker, who's a fucking demon.
Who is the best NA player? Period. Like,
And fucking
me, it's
Sven
no
is like
contest.
surprisingly good considering everything. Like that guy,
Yeah.
man, I respect Sven so much.
Yeah. I gave him
He's a
lot
real
of
warrior.
shit.
He's been playing
Oh,
for
yeah.
a decade. He still grinds like fucking 15
He's a
games a
warrior.
day. Like,
Yeah.
I love him.
So if
I don't know how to give it odds because
if I had a gun to my
Do the
head,
easy out and give it 50-50.
I mean that'd be the easy out. But a gun to my head, and you tell me to place a lot of money on it, I'm going 60-40 Fnatic. You tell me to bet with my heart, I'm going 70-30 Cloud9.
well, yeah.
That seems reasonable.
I think that's about fair.
Because I think G2 is like clear head and shoulders above everybody else from the West. Like it's not even comparable. Like you can't say, oh, because Fnatic is the second seed out of Europe,
It doesn't matter.
and Cloud9's the second seed because like NA's worse as a region. Like you can't draw the comparison because G2's just in their own level. Because of that, I think this is going to be an incredibly close series. I think it goes to 3 games no matter what, barring Blabber doing what he did in this past series, and our drafts being this absolutely freaking horrible.
I really think Eminus sucks donkey dick, though. Let's be real.
I mean, he's not
I
great.
mean,
There's a reason
like,
why
he's
I've been
just-
pushing the JoJo C9 for a long time now.
There's so much, like, I don't know the right word. Fudge is he's not doing great either, but also Oscar Renan is not nearly enough as much of like a gap. You know what I mean? M&S is just, I don't know. He really hasn't impressed me at all.
I think Oscar Razork work really well together though, which could be very problematic. For
Yeah,
Fnatic.
and Razork is easily Fnatic's best player, so
That's the thing. Because a small gap in lane can be further enhanced, right? With good jungle play. So
I
actually,
would say that
one
Razork and Blabber are pretty close.
Yeah,
So I really think that's. I mean, I wouldn't call that a wash in the sense that they're like perfectly equal, but I do think that M&S being such a liability means that the attention of Blabber can be drawn elsewhere. Whereas if it, do you know what I mean? Like if he has to go, bail M&S out, that means he's not he's not there to
Sure.
answer Razork pushing an advantage somewhere else.
I think a big issue for me with like that matchup is how far they are used to getting pushed. Where in Europe, Razork has to deal with Yike, Elyoya, Yankos, right? Who does Blabber have to deal with? That's the issue.
contracts. And well,
I
Piosik
mean,
did step up in playoffs. I will give him that.
yes, but like that's my issue, right?
I mean,
Is
contracts
he's
stepped up
not been
pretty
through
big.
enough. I feel like at least this year, from what we've seen, outside of words, of course, I'm saying, to then be built up to deal with enough problems. Let's say. In fact, I think really interesting for me is going to be the support matchup.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I mean, I love Trimby. I think he's the second best support in Europe after Mickey. I think he is very on and off also, unfortunately, as all my lovely supports are in Europe. I don't know. I feel like he can, because Vin is also like unique sometimes and like does his special shit or just does nothing, as David likes to say. He never does anything. So that's why it's like interesting because it can really be just a war of chaos or just nothing happening.
As an ADC, David, can you comment on this supports do nothing mindset?
Oh god.
Just not proactive in finding plays. I believe that the support player facilitates, especially in the early to mid game stages, a lot of the attention that you're going to see in different lanes. Like jungle ganking has become more predictable
Secondary.
as time has gone on. It's
Yes.
more about the support surprising you with roams, and I have never seen Sven be all that shocking when it comes to being proactive there. I think his best days as support are being a facilitator for Berserker to pop off on enchanters. That's just what he's had to do as time has gone on, and it makes sense because it's Berserker.
Yes, realistically, it's really hard to justify risking Berserker getting behind to play for M&S.
Exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah, that's why in
Right?
the LNG game when they were like, "Here, Fudge, have all this attention," and Berserker was like, "Hello, Dad."
Yeah, we're not winning the game, guys.
Berserker is it God?
Like if I was Blabber, every single game I would just sit bottom lane. Like Berserker's just
yeah,
a
but
fucking
you do
monster.
that and you're gonna get figured out and you will never play a game against a good team.
Well, what I
You
mean
just
is
can't.
not like every single game. I think
Sure,
I
but-
think I oversimplified
I mean,
it. But
that's I think the issue with C9 against good teams, right? Is I know Berserker just has to be the win con.
Yep.
I will just prepare for that in draft and in game. Like,
yeah,
what can
having
you
a
do about
single
it?
threat team is shutdownable.
I mean, that was
Very,
the
very
LNG
hard.
game. They if you looked at bot lane, it was just the two of them farming the entire time. There was no action bot lane, and that's brilliant from LNG because you know that you can probably win the 4v4 without them. That either if you're C9, you need to make the call to swap Fudge down and force Berserker up, which is going to cost you experience and is going to come back to bite you in the ass come late game as you just allow a Kaisa to, I think it was Kaisa on LNG's side, to just solo farm and never get punished. Like, you're setting yourself up for disaster later. But if that's the bet that they're taking, then your only chance is to smash that in their face and fight those 4v4s with Berserker there and at least try something. But we don't see C9 fighting them.
I think C9 have to be proactive, play aggressive shit bot lane, go for lane swaps for Herald, do stuff. Just do stuff. Enable an early lane swap. If your top laner is playing Ornn, don't recall. Stay there, ambush, level 6, sit there with your ulti, they will come S4, you'll be S5, you press your Ornn button, and fucking go. Do stuff. I think that's what they should look to do.
great call out from Archie in chat. He said it was Gala on Trist and Berserker on Kaisa. So yeah, in that case, I don't see why you do, like. There's no chance of Kaisa ever doing anything into a Tristana in lane. Tristana's gonna beat. I don't remember what champion Fudge was on, but Trist is still gonna win like that lane and get push. But like at least then you're forcing the Kaisa out into a fight where she can possibly excel, even if she's on a lower power spike. Like you're at least giving it a chance. Otherwise, what? You're just letting her sit and get pushed in under tower, and then you have Prio the entire time to be able to roam your ADC over to Dragon. I mean, I'm plat. I barely know shit about this game, and I feel like even then, like I can recognize a losing situation whenever I see one.
David, don't sell yourself short. You're Emerald now.
No, I got demoted.
Oh my god.
I'm
Absolute
flat one.
embarrassment.
He's flat, but Emerald Peak, okay?
Yeah, we'll get there. I have many VODs, by the way, from Twitch that you can use. Anyone that you choose for
Hit me up. We'll talk
to-
about it, yes.
to,
talk about
to
it after.
roast the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But is there anything we want to touch on for a final note around the matchups that we're going to have this weekend before we get into what I'm assuming might be a lengthy discussion about the LCS?
What
Only
do you
that
think
I
about
hope
2-1
C9
BLG?
wins, and I don't mind if G2 wins.
Fair. What do we think of T1 BLG?
I think BLG smashes them. I don't even think it's close.
It's hard to
BLG
say.
have been demolishing Korean teams. In the last,
And
full year?
SKT has
Yeah,
been
and T1's been
all over the
shit.
place. Well, I wouldn't say that. They've been all over the place.
Just because Cloud9 gave them a free win does not mean they're not
I
shit.
was gonna say, yeah.
Shut up, David.
They like honestly, like have T1 played a convincing game yet against a difficult opponent?
Not
Yeah, I
really.
suppose you're right.
I mean, they played
was their first
TL,
draw?
Gen G, and
second?
C9.
TL
Yeah,
and C9 are their
Gen
2
G.
wins. They nearly lost to TL, and then C9
Oh
they
yeah,
smashed.
yeah, true.
So you nearly
good
lose to
point.
Team Liquid. You lose your one matchup against an Eastern team, and then
Who's
Genji was their other.
yeah,
Yeah.
who's the last? No, who's the last best of 3? There's 4, right?
They played three best of ones.
No, it's 3 and
and
3.
now they play.
No,
their
no,
best
no.
of two.
I'm saying in this knockout, not knockout, but this do or die phase. There's 4.
Oh, it's
4 matchups, right?
LNG versus KT Rollster.
What about that one?
No, LNG will stop.
I'm actually
Yeah.
saying KT. I look.
LNG are way
I place a lot of weight, especially in tournaments like this, on momentum, and I think KT has just had. I think
They don't care what you think, David. Your dogs do not give one shit what you think.
KT lost to BLG.
yeah. Which I think
LNG,
BLG.
I think, are quite better than BLG.
I just feel like KT's one of those teams that I just feel like what you get a team that's coming out hot in Swiss stage that's tested a little bit more and finally gets to step it up. Maybe it's going to be one of two things. I either see KT stepping up and actually winning this game and continuing to build momentum going into knockout stage and honestly making a pretty deep run, or they're going to get their shit pushed in and then just crumble over and die. But there's going to be like no middle ground. It's going to be either they peak really high or not at all.
I think LNG just take it. Sure, momentum is a factor, right? Think of LNG. They went to 5 games with JDG and then did it again. They don't care about momentum. They're just fucking good.
That's fair.
You know, I mean, and again, this world, they just went to 1 against JDG. They're always neck and
Yeah.
neck with who everyone considers the gods, like the actual gods. They're always neck and neck. The only thing that pushes them.
They're pretty much the
They're
team
untouchable.
that I had in mind when we were talking earlier about if you're a true champion's mindset, you want to just play whoever's you want to play the
Definitely.
hard teams. You know what I mean? And so I think that's definitely LNG.
What I would like to see is I'd like to see LNG win this game and get put on the same side of the bracket as Genji, not JDG, so that we see a semifinal LNG versus Genji, and you truly get like the best team of the two to go off against Genji or JDG in the finals.
Gee, David, you really think JDG is gonna make it to the World Finals?
I mean,
What
look,
a call.
Who? I mean, who's like? I just can't even. I watched like 90% of their games once people started, chit-chatting about the Golden Road, and I just don't see anybody even coming close. Crazy. They're
And
just not.
LNG only, no?
Yeah. Oh, I
Like
mean,
it-
sorry, I meant outside. I mean Korean teams.
Oh, sure.
But that's
Hard
why I want
say
to see
still.
Gen G, LNG in the semis, because it's like if Gen G can keep up with LNG, firing on all cylinders, they're going to be the best chance that Korea has.
Yeah.
I mean, it is all on Gen G, 100%. No other Korean team, I think, will do enough damage in this tournament. I don't know. It's really hard for me to evaluate how strong Gen G are right now.
To address Archie's point, because he said, didn't David predict JDG won't make finals? Yes,
Oh, yeah.
purely because like if I'm making up a storyline of like how worlds like twists and turns, yeah, LNG versus T1 is like that weird storybook final that you randomly get. Like last year, DRX versus T1. Really? That was the final? Like, no, nobody would have predicted that. Like, that's where that comes in. But if you have any bit of common sense, yes, you are predicting JDG and a combination of Gen G, BLG, LNG. Like, that's the 4 teams that you're looking at to be the top 4 coming out of everything.
Wow, no faith in NA, David.
The second I go realistic, I get shit.
I doesn't love his region at all.
Yeah, the Cloud9 Discord apparently thinks that.
I'm thinking about my top 4. Call me delusional, but there is a world where I put G2 in there instead of BLG.
Yeah.
Do you think there's
There's
enough?
a world where I believe that G2 performs at a high enough level.
Yeah.
I think their highest level is, even with some of those teams, but I think they're not they don't consistently reach that peak.
But I think their lowest aren't as low as some others at the same time.
That
That's
too,
right.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Was there enough in the Gen G series to inspire confidence in you? Like I know it was a 2-0, but was it close enough for you to like still have faith?
The first 15 minutes of that game were normal as shit. Like there was nothing in particular going on, as I recall. Like no indicators of any. I mean, you could compare drafts in a vacuum all day, but I don't recall it getting bad until like the 20 to 23 minute mark. So. Oh, geez, David stepped away. We have to carry this podcast.
Oh god. I'm looking at the draft to remember. Oh, actually, I didn't catch this game live. Yeah.
Sorry, Coco was chasing Emily. What I miss?
Oh, we were just keeping your podcast breathing while you were gone.
Glad to see somebody can fill in as the co-host, as is your unofficial third role.
Okay, I didn't see these games live. I like briefly skimmed through them like the day after. I'm trying to see if there's a quick summary I can look at with like gold graphs and stuff. Okay, here, yeah.
As did most of the West, to be fair.
It's so hard.
No, I watched that whole game.
Okay.
Series, rather.
Wait, so game 1, G2 were ahead the whole time and then Gen G won at the end?
I believe so, yeah.
That's what I was...
So that's already, of course, I did not see shit, right? I'm not giving Coach POV, I'm just looking at the raw numbers. I see the same thing for game 2, in fact. That's very hopeful, at the very least. I see, yeah, we have Hansama on Lucian, so we don't want to win. I get that.
The second I saw the Lucian come in, I was like, oh god, what are they doing? Are they
Yeah.
saving picks?
Hansama, Ezreal. I mean, I don't know if they were too interested in winning, I'll put it that way, but that is hopeful for sure.
What were the... does the
talking
graphic
about
that you're
scrims,
seeing...
I hate...
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna
graph.
ask, did the graphic that you're seeing, did Gen G ban out Kaisa or Xayah? Like, was that up and they passed on it, or was that...
Draven Kalista are out?
They just passed on it, to be honest with you. They had to have banned it.
Yeah, no, Draven Kalista were out. Gen G has the Xayah, and yeah, G2 just went Ezreal, Tristana. No other ADs are touched. And then game 2 for the Lucian. I see no AD bans. Then again, Draven Kalista. Yeah, that's it.
Well,
no
at least Hansama's eating some respect there.
I mean, you have to ban his Draven.
But you have to pick the Kaisa then. It's like the second strongest pick in the game. And you gave away Xayah Rakan both games. You can't give away Xayah Rakan.
I know. I mean, they can play fucking Samira. Like, they can play Nyla. Like, this is Hans. He plays this, you know? He can do stuff like this. That's no issue. He plays Raven, he plays Samira, you know? It's the same idea. You just go in and headbutt people.
I
That's
don't
all you
find
want to do.
Eastern
You want to
teams
snowball.
to be very very reactive to kind of like weird off meta stuff though. Like they usually just crush it. You know what I mean? Like people
I
whip
don't know
out
about
stuff
that.
and then they just I don't know.
I don't think it's the pick at that point. It's just the gap.
Yeah.
But I think generally, Korea has been really shit this year with drafting, which should be biting them more. But hey, here we are. We pick Ezreal
Hands
Lucian
diff
for Hansa 1.
hands diff
So,
gap makes it not matter at
yeah.
all.
But hey, if we had these good enough early games where at least we have leads, then that's decent at
With
least.
with the weird picks no less. I mean that would
Yeah.
give more weight to your argument too. Like if they're using those and barely losing, what if they had or
They're
drafted a little
champs.
better.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
for sure. I don't know. I hate to put too much value on scrims. I genuinely do, because I think scrims are a really bad way of training as a whole. But whatever. We'll get into that another time. Every like they had what? I think before they played their first Worlds game, they had like an 85% win rate in scrims. G2. That's mental.
Against Eastern and Western teams.
I think overall, but with how G2 is, I don't know if they scrimmed all the teams, right?
Yeah.
I think they're very safely the main Western team that the Asian teams will book. So I think they just had a feast with them, mostly. Of course, I imagine they played with some of their European teams, NRG, Sinai, maybe for whatever, right? But that is crazy. I think I saw that somewhere on Twitter. Not sure. Don't quote me on it, but that if that's true, that is wild. But again, scrims for me, I don't value them that highly. But
That's interesting that you say that. I guess I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you recall Fudge talking about like maybe a year ago, talking about how he was mostly playing 1v1s with Vigar V2 as
Yeah.
practice, and the community like burned him alive for it. So I'm
Yeah, because the
curious.
community is clueless.
Right, of
One ones
course.
are often
So
very
yeah,
very
that's what I was
stupid.
gonna ask was whether or
Yeah.
not you thought that like that was justified or not, because if you don't think scrims are useful, then what do you think is useful, I guess is the
So they're
question.
not useless, right? It's just you're using the whole game, and you're not practicing on or focusing one specific thing, which to
Hmm.
me, in terms of time efficiency, is terrible. Anyone that comes from sports, what is sports training? Drill this thing, drill this thing, drill this thing, drill this thing, drill
Yeah.
this thing, drill this thing.
And you have
Now, of
occasional
course,
scrimmages, but it's way more.
yes.
It's way more practicing an ability. Yeah, that
It's
makes a
also
lot of sense.
internal 90% of the time.
Also, this, yes. This is also the big issue with specifically NA the most. You guys have nothing to scrim. It is so sad. Genuinely. Because in EU, at least before this year, we had, like TCL, who had a world slot. Their top two teams often were solid, at least good enough scrim partners to, maybe not show something to your fellow LDC boys,
Yeah, if you look at
Mhm,
Cloud9's like in-season scrims,
mhm.
it was like 90% of them were against the only other good team in the region.
Yes, yes,
It's just
yes.
like, help! What do we
It
do?
sucks. It sucks because then you get used to these people too much, and then you're like, you're not
Yeah,
used to
you
actually
know people's
adapting to things in a
habits.
game. Yeah, you're not adapting to things now, and now losing that adaptability factor is really, really bad. But even ARLs now, of course, the level is there, like difference from ARLs to LEC. However, ARL teams often have a identity, and if they really push that identity, look, now the LEC team has to adapt to something, which is at least pushing them in some
Yeah,
way, which is
I can
good,
see that because most
very
teams in
good.
general have an identity. So like,
Yeah.
being able to play like fucking 369,
Mhm.
very clear identity as a
Mhm.
player. And so, when you're drafting or playing against him, you have to your draft theory or your game theory, you have to kind of, think very critically about it and very like
Mhm.
on the fly. And so
Mhm.
even if you're playing like a way worse team, obviously in ERL, you're still stretching that mental muscle of how
Yes.
do I counter this person's unique take on the game. So
Mhm.
yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, even I think I don't know exactly when. A few years back, there was a German team called Gamer Legion. They had always the wildest drafts. Now that can for many teams that's like a headache. I don't want to deal with this. But if you're facing a team that you know might pull something surprising out of their whatever, um, uh, hey, that's a good team to scrim. Because guess what? They're gonna do unexpected things now. You need to adapt. If you want to focus like these 2 days on adapting to things, hey, play them. Simple. Sure, you might stomp them in after 15 minutes, but at least you got that practice in, right? But yes, going back to like what alternatives to scrims, yes, 1v1s incredibly important. I've done them many times with my players. That's also the nice thing is you're gonna have some cracked one trick. You want to play this matchup? Boom, go play him. He will push that limit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Most pros cannot touch the limits of champs, by the way. Genuinely, they cannot. Because they spend so much time. Oh, I have to do this now and now this meta, and now I have to do team stuff. They can't push the limits as hard as many top one tricks. And of course, then that comes from the solo queue level, which of course also in NA is very sad. Because that's just how it is. So then you don't have good solo queue, you don't have good scrims. It's hard to be hopeful.
All right.
For growth.
So we pretty much shifted to this topic then. Let's fully dive into it.
Sure.
It's funny, actually. I brought this up because I've been watching a lot of Whippo, who I adore as a player, and he has a lot of the same thoughts. And he's like, I can, if I need, generalized lane practice or like just vague matchup practice of a champion that I want to draft, I'll just play solo queue, even if it's bad level, right? Like even if the solo queue level is bad, it doesn't matter. You're getting the physical, like the
muscle memory,
reps.
muscle
combos,
memory,
getting
yeah.
used to things, yes.
But you're not, solo queue obviously provides zero mental, and it may even destroy your mental. But yeah, I think definitely what you were saying is something I've heard from him as well, is that, adaptability, being surprised, learning how to handle that is not something you can learn in solo queue or in these kind of boring snoozer scrims.
So the news that came out today from Monte Cristo, in coordination with Team Liquid bombing out of the tournament with another overpaid roster, is that we are likely going to be seeing teams blow up and organizations just blow up their rosters entirely to the point where we might have a 2018 level roster mania because every org is cutting contracts in order to save money and then asking players to either re-sign for lower or they're allowed to become a free agent. Now, the caveat that I will add to this, in terms of the complexity, is for some of these orgs that have players tied to a deal to 2024, if your entire contract is guaranteed, your hands are kind of tied unless the player is willing to waive their rights to go out and go somewhere else because they want out of the organization. If you're locked into paying that player that amount of money, even if you cut them, you still owe them the money. So fiscally, it's not worth it to cut them. So there is that element is going to be there. But if we're going to be seeing a North America next year where the pay drops, you're assuming that veterans are going to retire because they're at that point, do you really have the grind to do it for $75,000 to $100,000? And then you're going to have newer players come in, which automatically means that the level of play in the LCS is dropping, but could have long-term benefits of finally getting fresh talent in there and finally kickstarting the pipeline. Yep. Do you think any of those issues, both with scrims, I'm not going to say solo queue because solo queue just is what it is, pro players cycling into the LCS has no impact on that. Do you think any of the issues that we have might be helped by the decisions that are being made by orgs to cut salaries?
No, because, and this is just an opinion of mine that I've had for a while. I think the pay difference between a pro gamer, as in, playing for a team in NA or EU, or, I mean, Korea and China are different, but the pay gap essentially between being on a team and if you were to convert onto on the assumption that you become a successful streamer or entertainer or whatever, is so massive that LCS players playing in the LCS are doing it because they love it, not for the pay. So
I disagree. I think it's the only thing they have to do. Otherwise, they will do nothing. Most of them, at least. I think most of
I
them
don't
don't
think all
have
of
any
them would like
tangible
magically
skills.
be successful if they moved over, for sure.
That's the
but-
thing. I think genuinely, for most of them, they have nothing else possible to them.
So you're agreeing, not with me, but that they would stay with a pay cut?
I think they have to.
Yeah.
What alternatives they have? Go into casting, most can't. Go into coaching. We've seen that recycled the whole fucking time. Nothing
Yeah,
will
I think
change.
you might see a lot of guys retire if they don't,
Yeah, but then do what, right?
No, what I mean is like totally drop out of the scene, go back to school or something or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like
Which would be
either
good for
either
them.
they take the pay
Think
either they take
most
the
of
pay
them
cut
don't want that,
or
Oh no, they definitely don't.
well no, I'm saying that's the
That's the
only two
thing.
options in that case is they either take the pay cut or they leave the scene
Yeah,
entirely.
I think they have to take the pay cut. I don't know what David thinks.
I mean, okay, there's a difference. Like, I have to be careful with how I say this because saying it the wrong way can come off as like very anti-player, and I don't want it to come off that way. I want people in the LCS that have a fucking drive to win
Yes, please.
as their only priority. That, sure, 75 to 100K is fine. Like, that'll pay the bills, assuming you have a roommate and like you take care of all that, fine. But it's not about that. Your goal should be that you want to win the LCS at all costs in a stadium full of as many fans as humanly possible. And that comes with growing a brand image. That comes with playing at peak levels beyond what we are currently seeing in the LCS. I really don't give a shit what the pay is. And if you're here for the money and you're here for the pay, be like, oh, it'd be cool to get paid for this. Sure, but like, I
want to win.
I
want to fucking win.
Yes, I want a
Yes.
personality shift
I think
entirely in the LCS.
I think given the constraints, we've somewhat artificially placed on them in this conversation, I really think what that will lead to is the good players will stay on the teams they're already on because those are the teams with the most money. And then you'll just see roster mania, but it'll be the bottom 75% of players, like the bottom 75% of skill play. You know what I mean? Like if Blabber has to take a pay cut and that's his only option, or he quits Pro League, he's going to stay on C9. He's not going to get better money anywhere else. I mean, he may get, but the point being is I think it'll just mean that the really good players will stay on the teams they're already on.
Yes.
My thing though, I guess to word it better, it's not about good players being on the good teams and like getting paid more elsewhere. Like that's not what I'm aiming for. If I had my choice, every single player in this league would be getting paid a flat $100,000 and that's it.
Hell no.
And all of your extra
No,
pay
with bonuses. With bonuses.
Yeah, with incentives tied to that, sure.
Sure.
But like, I want the majority of your pay and incentive and structure to be around growing the game in North America. Because whether you like it or not, you have a responsibility to help do that. And in a world where we don't have this ecosystem underneath us, like the ERLs and just like general European culture, you need to be the one to set that example. You need to inspire people to want to come into that system underneath you. But currently, the majority of the people that we have at the top, while the LCS is doing a decent job of promoting the personalities and getting them a little bit more on broadcast, I don't see enough from the players outside of that to really inspire me. I don't think that, like, barring JoJo, I don't think there's JoJo, Blabber, maybe Berserker. How many other players do we know that people were looking like, yeah, I want to be him? People looked at Doublelift, looked at Bjergsen, looked at all of them, were like, I'm gonna fucking be that. I am going out of my way to make sure that I can follow in his footsteps and be that. Now what?
I don't know about you, David, but every single person I've ever spoken to about why they stopped watching League is pretty much because we suck and we'll never compete with the Eastern teams. And even though it's a terrible excuse, like for them to make, if it's the only thing every single person I've ever talked to that said, yeah, I used to watch League has said to me, like, I don't think it matters too much. Like, it depends on whether you want to bring people in or retain people. Like, I don't know.
The pay's not that high in Europe.
It is. Well, depends where. You
Wait,
have players making millions. Many players making million a year. And keep in mind that's without LA tax. So the income is actually much higher.
okay, so
Right?
LEC salaries are now higher than LCS.
Depends which team. That's the thing,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So what is the driving difference then?
Culture.
Is it just like people just
Culture.
genuinely want to be a part of those fans? Like, it's like I look at K Corp and it's like, that's what I want.
That is what a European football team looks like, basically,
Yes.
right? You bring those diehards who just die for your fucking club. They genuinely will buy anything they can. They will go to every single game, buy tickets every time, any merch, anything. They are there non-stop. Football fans will post on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Esports fans will post on Twitter, right? It is that. That is the mentality.
Would you
You saw
say?
K Corp they built a fucking stadium in Paris. Did you see that?
Yeah.
A 3,000 person venue in fucking Paris. We're talking Paris. It's not cheap by any means. It's mental. Who does that?
Would you say that it's related maybe to the fact that Europeans have still much more of an identity, like in terms of, placing value in, what part of Europe you're from, whereas America's like, yeah, we're all Americans. Everything happens in LA. There's no like regional
Yes.
team.
Did I say? I don't know if I said this live last time or if it was after. The funny driving thing about Europe is everyone has so much beef with each other from the history that you just grow up driven to do shit more often than not. If that's again sports culture, I think here is bigger also, which again puts kids to be disciplined more. Okay, you're gonna work hard for fucking this and that and this sport and that sport, right?
I will
Whatever it may
disagree
be.
on one portion of that. We do
Go ahead.
have that in the US.
Mhm.
College football.
Yes,
That
but
culture exists here. But
College
yes,
football
but
is also very
specifically just that,
yeah.
like regionalized too. Like the fandom is
right?
regionalized.
But that's
That's
my
the
Like
point.
issue.
like I've met people who never went to, I don't know, Ole Miss in their life, but they're from the area, so they support Ole Miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I went to school in North Carolina, and I know the clear lines between Duke and UNC, and like, it is part of your family. You were born into it. It's just like that is when I look at that, and then I look
But
at
that's
K
not
Corp.
common enough, right? That's the issue.
The thing is, it is, but I blame teams for not understanding that. I blame teams for not understanding that you have, in America specifically, you have to tie yourself to an area and try and grow something locally because
Is it that
online we
hard
move on too
also
quick.
because of sponsors, or is that even better
It's
potentially?
also
It's
hard
even
because of space. The teams can't live in their areas, whereas Europe, it's
That's
like,
also
okay, they
yeah.
take a 3-hour bus ride and we're there.
I mean, they
No,
can't because I think Astralis, I want to say, wanted to do that when they were living in Copenhagen, and then fly to Berlin all the time. But and now we're talking. By the way, that is right north of it. That is no time at all. I think they
Mhm.
still dropped that because it's just annoying.
be right back.
Genuinely, as a player, I don't want to have to deal with that. Right? Like if I'm doing my prep, I don't want to have to be on my fucking phone or tablet or laptop to do shit. It's just annoying.
Yeah, no,
Plus
I mean
the
the
actual
planes,
traveling is a bit taxing on you, right? Like it's
they're
just
also
not
not
me.
cheap at the end of the day.
I mean, that's gonna be whatever. European travel is very cheap. Trust me, it's gonna
That's
be like
true,
taking a
yeah.
taxi in LA. Trust me. um, uh, but that's just the issue. Is it causes more issues more than anything. Um, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just the culture to me. That's the big issue. Yes, American college football incredible, but that's where it stops, right? How K Corp is, that is almost every single football club in Europe. Even the smallest fucking town, by the way.
I
They
know.
will go so hard because they will play one big club and they're like, if we fucking do this, the one time they will lose for 60 years straight. They will win one. Holy shit, their life is actually worth it now. That's genuinely the idea. It's mental. It is
The
a bit psychotic. I will tell you that.
oh,
But still, it's
it is.
sick. It's so sick because you will see tears of joy from an 80-year-old who only saw his club lose. It's amazing because
It,
it's just that one moment that made it worth it.
I would highly recommend if anybody here has Hulu, go watch Welcome to Wrexham, the episode called Giant Slayers. That talks about their run in the FA Cup and upsetting some of the biggest clubs in the world, and just
It's amazing.
how much it means to the community. And it's just like, that's
I think it's also unironically how American mentality about winning kind of backfires, right? Like you don't have something to you don't have a team identity to fall back on if your team loses like European teams do. Like it's like 50-50 in Europe, where it's like, yeah, teams are, get fans for winning, but they also have, like regional pride or, what have you, that you've, like the football club idea. Whereas America's like, if you don't perform, like, bye.
Yeah.
You're not, you have
Jump ship.
no, yeah, exactly.
yeah, because you're not tying yourself to any community.
Because you don't have that other thing
Because
to
you
tie
don't
to, is what
care.
I'm saying.
You just want to win. As a fan, like that's the idea then, right? As a fan, you just
like,
don't care
that's not
about
good
this
enough,
team.
especially
You
when
just
you're
wanna
not
win.
winning,
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
when TSM went from perennially 1 to 4, started placing like 8th, 6th, 5th, 7th,
There was no one
whatever.
left.
No, all the fans are like, bye.
And
then when TL started doing good, all of a sudden
Mhm.
they had the biggest fan base in NA.
and arguably TSM had the best branding of all time in NA with Baylife era.
Yep.
Because that was amazing.
Fully
That
agree
was
with that. That's pre-David. David doesn't know
untouched.
any of that.
I
mean, I assume he watched
obvious-
back.
Yeah,
'cause it's
I've
so big,
watched
right?
content related to it. You kind of have
Considering the time, especially, that shit was sick. That made me a TSM fan. I was genuinely a TSM fan for years. Because that was sick. It gave me a team to actually care about. It's not just these guys playing on their keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, and in a lesser way, Cloud9 was the meme team for a long time when it was the the original guys and some iterations
Meteor
of that.
Sneaky,
They were
yeah.
they were like the goofball meme team that still did good. So they had an
Yeah.
identity. They've kind of lost that now, having to
Definitely.
change players so much. They've still kept most of the fan base because of performance, but
Mhm.
it's kind of says between TSM and CLG has kind of cultivated some fucking diehards, although it's NRG now, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
the CLG
they've
brand is
so
dead,
it's certainly
unfortunately.
it's certainly possible, I think, but I think we don't have like a grasp on how to recreate the magic that EU does all the time, like organically. You know what I mean? So
Because
You
I
need
don't.
people to create culture.
That's the thing. I
somehow.
don't think anybody's willing to invest that time into it. Like, I want to call it a great comment in chat. PF Wanks said, I also feel like all teams want the large market, so there isn't a good way to decide who wants to be located where. Fuck everybody else. If I'm a team owner, I don't give a fuck what anybody else is doing. I'm just going to New York, picking a bar and saying, look, can you have on our match every time that we play? That I can funnel our fans to you, and I will drive you business if you give us a spot.
Yeah.
And as long as somebody says yes, then guess what? Cool. We got a
Boom.
home base. We can build from there. Even if it's a dingy bar that has 30 seats.
It's
fine.
a start. Yeah.
Fine. Let's pack out 30 seats. And if we can do that consistently, then hey,
I like it.
let's look to upgrade somewhere. And that's how you grow. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? You've got 200 specific New York fans to this one team who are willing to come out to events, willing to buy beers, buy food, buy merch. Then you keep it. Like, that shit takes time. I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2 to 3 years. Don't get me wrong. Culture takes an eternity to build and a second to
Forever.
destroy, by the way. But you have to, like, those are the steps that you have to take. That's what European clubs have hundreds of years of history to build into them. That shit takes time, but you gotta start. You can't just sit here and say, oh, well, nobody, I don't want to go to New York. I don't know if they're gonna do, like, somebody fucking do it. Somebody pull the trigger and somebody do it, because what we are doing now is not working, and teams are being blessed by being given another opportunity to slash salaries, to become profitable and sustainable over a long period of time. Now use that opportunity to actually grow a fucking brand.
I will
don't
say.
tell me the answer is road shows, David. I swear to God.
No, I'm not even saying road shows. I'm just saying a team puts
Region.
themselves in a city.
Yeah.
Fly your team out there either during the off season, maybe during the season, once or
do
twice.
stuff.
Like, just
do charity. Go to schools. Do shit with kids. I don't
Yes.
care. Genuinely, please. I see this shit all the time with football players. You'll just have, even if this guy's like a Brazilian player, right, comes to fucking England, and he will still just have these little kids that look up to him. Because
But
he's
wrestlers
just representing their
do
club,
it all
you
the
know?
time in NA.
Of
Like,
course, yeah.
it's so
It's a
simple.
part of culture. It makes them a part of the community. It's so nice. It's so important.
And Rob said in chat,
So
he's like, League's
important.
not going to be around in 10 years. But you know what? That's fine. You think K
It
Corp's
will.
going to be here
It
in
will.
100? Yeah, I'm willing to bet they will be, regardless of what game it's in. Why? Because they've built enough faith with the community that now you can trust the ownership. You can trust the group to go into a different game. And you have that tie, you have that root. It's like, okay, well, League's dead and, you know, fucking Counter-Strike 10 is the game. Well, guess what? K Corp's got a team. So that's our team. And that 100 years of pride that you've been using in League of Legends carries over to another game. You have to, that takes time and will carry over, but it's just like, oh.
It's a multi-generational thing, because that's how I grew up, right? My mom was a fan of this club. Hey, I'm seeing this club play all the time. I'm a fan of them now. It just grows and grows and grows. That's just how it goes. It has to take so much time. But what was I gonna say? I think a big issue with first of all, I think Overwatch League fucked that idea for many people to not take that risk. I will say that. I think Overwatch League really, 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 really hinders that idea. Because we saw how that crashed and burned so much money, it's unbelievable. So that's sadly one of the cases. But I think a big issue also in terms of any league team, by the way, even like in Europe, never. Everyone says they want to win when they just fucking cannot. I'm sorry. You cannot. You have to accept your place. If you are not gonna have the budget to match, if number one team has 5 extra budget, be realistic. Build something. Have a better scouting. Have better coaching. Build something. Build a structure. Build systems. Build a culture.
Shit, have a
And then
fucking
in
have a
5
fucking
years'
fan
time,
pen, even if you're dog
know?
shit at the finals. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the thing. I think no one wants to do this, and I don't know why. Be realistic. Get some young fucking kids. Grow them. Focus a lot on just their development. I think this is something somewhat we saw with CLG/NRG, right? Where they were like, "Oh, we're keeping this group together," blah blah blah. That's still nothing, by the way. They did what, 2 years? That's nothing.
Yeah.
I think there's also something to be said for, not even, it doesn't have to be even League of Legends. Like,
Mhm.
build an identity that transcends League of
Yes,
Legends
yes.
in the sense that,
That's I
like,
think G2 has that, no?
yeah, for sure. Like the G2
Yeah.
army,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. Like, even like we can go back and forth all night long on whether we think League's going to be around in precisely 10 years or precisely 15 years, but if you build I think competitive gaming will be around forever, realistically, as long as people still have computers in 50 years, 100 years, or whatever.
It
In
might
some
outlive
form,
sports. I'm fine
yeah.
saying that.
And so if you correctly essentially transition your brand into like something bigger than just one sport, it's like New York's teams, like they have fans that are like or they have teams that are varying degrees of performing, um and they've had teams that go on streaks and win, but the identity that New York, it's not one to one, obviously, because a brand can't transcend into multiple games in real sports. You know what I mean? Like you don't have like the New York Yankee that basketball team. It's not one to one, but it is like you're a New York sports fan, right? Like there's a a New York sports fan is like depressed all the time because the Mets suck or whatever it may be. Even if it's like that, even if it's like, oh, half of my teams fucking suck, that's still an identity. Like you were talking about the 80-year-old guy, like he's still a fan, he still spends money, he still buys jerseys, you know um and I think that's just a lot of, with all these teams being like, gee whiz, where'd our money go, where can we get more? It's like it's staring you in the face.
Yeah, it just takes time, and everyone just seems so scared of time.
Everyone's so short term, I think.
I think that's it's not that they're scared of time. It's just like, I feel like we had that initial wave of.
David, I think it's like a symptom of the VC culture,
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna touch on.
because VC people be like, yo, where's my money after 20 minutes?
Because you had the initial wave of owners like Steve, like Reggie, etc., that came in just out of pure passion. I'd throw Hex with Optic in there, Jack with C9. Like they came in just.
Yo, don't forget about Rick Fox, bro.
Yeah. Like they genuinely loved it. And like just were passionate owners within the game that you'd have orgs get relegated, teams would come and go, but ultimately that is a different style of ownership than what we've seen in the last 5 to 6 years, which is just like, what have you done for me lately style ownership? Or, oh, you're not turning a profit? Well, sorry.
Yeah.
It is what, like, it's not, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like, my question I would propose to people, this is going to be a rather extreme example, but bear with me. Who would you rather have as owners in the LCS right now? Immortals or Paul and I putting a team together?
I cannot comment.
Well, if it's Paul and you, then fuck it. I hate that team. But I get your sentiment.
The
for
point
sure.
is that, like, I'm not saying that we would do it better, but I feel like there's a level of passion and care.
There's gonna be more heart.
Yes. And that translates into content, into everything else.
Yes.
You can have the most passionate employees in the world, and I know I saw Charlie, who does work for Immortals, in chat. Me saying that's not coming at him. I've seen his level of dedication. I've seen how much he loves the game, how much he loves content. But when you don't have people at the top that genuinely care, it will always trickle down. When you're in it for a profit, that's all
not
that
willing
matters.
to make. I was going to say, not willing to make a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain, or even for the question of a long-term gain. I think that might be, the scene's kind of relative newness if you place it alongside traditional sports, but also the instability, because a lot of business people take short-term risks for long-term gain, but in this scene, it's so new and it's so like fraught with bullshit and risk that like I feel like it's scaring people off because there's no guarantee of getting anything back. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing I'll add to that. There are people that are taking short-term risks, and I'll point out Steve, because I talked about it in the video today. Investing millions of dollars into a roster that you think is going to turn around fandom and show up internationally technically is a bigger risk. But like, and it's not like, I'm not trying to downplay how much money he's putting into it, but it's not smart money. You're not spending wisely. And that's where it's like,
Wait, are you trying to tell me that the $3 million facility they built wasn't smart money?
I would argue a facility itself
Unreal.
is smart in theory.
If used correctly.
If done correctly. But I don't think any of these teams that have these facilities out in LA are really doing much with them. And that also notably includes 100 Thieves, even if they, their content, I know people want to like shit on their YouTube, and understandably so, they should, but their socials everywhere else are popping off. So there is some use for those facilities when done right, especially from a corporate point of view, having everybody in offices, being able to like consolidate like the inner operations is important. But there's way more to it.
I
What are your-
think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What are your thoughts mostly on like specifically FlyQuest? Because they took a risk, tried to cultivate a team identity, and it's kind of a whiff, in my opinion, at least.
I respect the push.
It's like we say basically, teams should do this, but they're living proof of a team that did it and basically kind of failed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I respect the push they made. Because
I
it wasn't just.
I agree with you. I respect
you
it
know?
too, but
Yeah,
respect.
because it also wasn't just put money in the fucking league. They were pushing at least more on socials. I'm not gonna say it was amazing, but at least they pushed more. That's why I respect it. It's not just like, oh, we're Vitality, we buy 50 fucking million worth of players. Let's see if we do something, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree.
That has
I
no
respect
value to
them. I
me.
just think that them seeing other teams seeing that and seeing it fail is,
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough.
I'm curious to see, is LS the right person to build a brand around?
Fuck no, I'll say it.
Because that's like the point. Because one of the parts that came up with like the whole 100 Thieves YouTube discussion was like, even though Courage and Valkyrie are co-owners of 100 Thieves, how much are they actually investing to grow the brand? Are they putting all of their time and effort in to make sure like that 100 Thieves is growing just as much, if not more, than they are individually? And that's what I would say with LS as well, is like, if you're going to bring in content creators and all these people, at least on from my perspective, I want people that I can guarantee will be with the org for 20 plus years unless something catastrophic happens. And I'm not sure I see a world when I look at like some of FlyQuest League of Legends content, like it pops off when it's LS, but when it's not there, which is a good, to a certain extent is good, because you want to have bigger names in that come in, bring an audience, and they stay around even if LS were to go. But I don't know what FlyQuest identity fully is at the moment. Besides that, because like it was like, we're just gonna be, previously it was an eco-friendly org. Now
they were like the three happy shit.
Yeah, now it's like content positivity to a certain extent, but like your league roster, I'm really interested to see what they do next year with the team, to see if we can derive any sort of like brand identity from like what they're going for. What kind of values do you stand for? How do you continue what you had this year to push forward?
Yeah, that part scares me, because I feel like they might take this year as a big hit and be scared to do anything.
Are we still talking FlyQuest? Sorry to step away. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, other teams and them are probably both looking at them being like, well, that was a failure. Now we're scared to do anything.
But you can't. You cannot. It's like the same thing with like dating, I would say, is like the best comparable example. You got your heart broke. It sucks. You could and you can go one of two routes. You can shelter yourself off and never put yourself out there again, and then you're going to wonder, why can I never find somebody? Or you deal with it. It happens. You tried. Learn from it, move on, and wait for the next opportunity and hope that it's going to be best. You cannot let every situation that knocks you down keep you down. You cannot be scared to take risks just because something failed. You should take smarter risks.
It's easy to say when it's not your money.
That's the thing. I get the idea, but it's hard to compare it still.
Yeah, it's such a volatile environment that it's like, I don't know, and people with a lot of money, investors, they like stability. I mean, they a lot of people make their money by taking a lot of risk, but at the same time, like the kind of good for the scene investors are the ones who like stability.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think regarding what you said earlier, like having content creators that will stay for 20 years, I think if you're not offering a genuine big chunk of the whole company itself, that's not gonna happen. I don't know how business moves exactly, but that just won't happen. At least not how things are and will be for a while. Because I think that's why I think you said Courage and the Valkyrie, right, with 100 Thieves?
Yeah.
They can invest a lot in the company because they will get that return. Right?
In theory, yeah.
Right? So that's the issue. If LS, let's say, as you said with FlyQuest, what return is he actually getting from the org? Is it just the base contract, so he just needs to do this one video a week and we're done,
I don't know, because when I think about LS, I don't think about FlyQuest.
No, of course not.
Like, that's the last thing that comes to my mind. It's like,
I think that's the hard part about getting someone established, though, because they have their own identity.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, mix and match that,
Which is why, I'm not a big fan of signing content creators, and especially in the league scene, that that already have identities that are already tied in that pool. You want to have up and coming creators, because I can promise you there's a billion of them.
Of course.
That you can tie your brand and grow around. That they can become part of you and hopefully stay there for a long period of time.
I think so let's say FlyQuest we know is the happy positive org. Broxa would be a great fit for them then, no?
In theory, yeah. But I do think I think Broxa fits well.
He's with TL. I mean, sure, but I don't think TL has a particular identity.
Oh no, they definitely don't.
That's the thing, right? So at least we have identities that can match. For example, G2 got fucking Kesha, the Nunu player. That shit fits.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. that's the thing, right? Oftentimes you just have these random signings. It feels like it's like, oh yeah, he has numbers. We want a streamer. Boom, make
Yeah.
it happen. It feels like we do this because we see others do it, and we just have to type thing. I don't know. It feels strange to me. I don't know enough about this space in particular, but I think again, if I'm thinking about culture and growth, make something that fits and that would work out.
Yeah.
You want positivity? Yeah, get someone like Broxa. That's the one name I can think of right now. It's like, yeah, he's always super positive and chill on stream, you know? He's also in a part of your game that you want to like do this in with League, so it just makes sense.
For me,
You want to be the clowns? Get fucking Kesha. Boom. There you go. G2. Makes
For-
sense. But others, I don't think I can point to anything else that like would make sense in my mind that I've seen.
for me, it's just hard because like, in terms of esports, my identity's been tied to Optic since 2013. The same guys
Sure.
that were in the org then, even though they're retired and aren't playing anymore, are still around. Like the majority of the faces that you assumed were with Optic and were like named faces of it are still
Yeah.
there. Now you have newer faces coming in. Obviously,
course.
you would want that. You don't want it to just be the same people until the end of time, unless you're like the sidemen who can afford to do that. But even then, you still have people that come in and help mix it up and keep it fresh every now and then. Like you got, I don't know, they're a good example for me of like Optic is always Optic. There's that identity of who they are, and that's their core, and you know what they're like because of the people that are involved with them 24/7.
Yeah.
And you'll have some people come in and mix it up, but like I haven't seen that as prevalent, or at least not push as much from the org side from many others. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you that Mid Beast was part of Team Liquid off the
Oh,
top
yeah,
of my
I
head
know.
without thinking about it.
Yeah, that's random. I think, funnily enough, culture-wise, as shit as they are, FaZe was really good at that.
Oh, they were great at it.
As shit as they are, as whatever, they had a culture. They actually had culture. They had people who care. Yeah, maybe they're not the best fucking people, but hey, they built something. You know, I mean, shit, they built something.
Somebody's got to
Like
be the
these,
bad boy. It sells.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
bad boy, dumb boy, you know, whatever line you want to cross. But
I will never forget the Sidemen phase crossbar challenge. That was one of the best
Oh,
videos
yeah.
on YouTube that I think I've seen in a long time.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. In chat, Mid Beast is part of TL, didn't it? Exactly.
yeah.
That's my point. Like when you can't easily identify creators as big as Mid Beast with your org, you failed.
Well, they haven't been doing anything either. Like in the
I mean,
sense
he's in
of,
Australia.
well, right, but and I guess it's the intangibility of like working online. You know what I mean? You don't have
Yeah.
like you can't go. I was about to say pet some orphans, but that's not, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so like you were talking about earlier with like, go, do some
The
charity
schools and
work or
shit.
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So like, it's much, I think more difficult to. All they end up doing, half of them, is just streaming what they'd already be doing, just with a TL banner or what have you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
So
Nothing changes at all. They just have a new shirt and some new banners and logos around their socials. That's
I
about
think
it.
that's a bad signing, in my opinion.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
100%. I think. Did you guys see the Kesha G2 vlog for?
Yes. For
That's
was
sick.
it LEC or LCS
For
finals
the
or Worlds?
finals, yeah.
Yeah, finals.
For France. Yeah, that was amazing. That's
Yeah.
sick. He has his personality that is tying into being like a crazy G2 fan, and he's riling up the G2 army and shit. That shit works. G2 also have I know everything G2. Fuck me. They're the goat org. Okay, unlucky. Their manager, Romain. I don't know how to say
Yeah.
his name. Yeah,
Former
fucking.
Yeah, when he
Optic
gets all
alumni.
dressed up like a
Yes.
fucking wild man.
Yes, he riles the fucking crowd up. He does. It's like 8 hours of work, by the way. The full body paint.
Yeah.
It's insane. Then he goes out, his mask, his fucking flag, get the fucking crowd chanting, get shit going. It feels like an actual arena. It's so nice. It's so good. That's the stuff you want. Not, oh yeah, guys, we have a shirt cannon. Let's go. Boom,
You
boom,
know
boom,
what's
boom, boom.
funny?
Enjoy.
Actually,
5 shirts. See ya.
we were talking about this earlier about how to build a brand. Fucking, they haven't been good since 2015, but we still, no matter who's playing, we fucking hear TSM in live crowd chants.
Every time.
Even they were doing it in just in
we were
Worlds
at-
in Europe, by the way. They just
David
do it.
and I were both at New Jersey
Randomly.
finals and people were there was like huge TSM chants.
Loud,
I mean, it's,
arguably
at
louder
least it's
than-
expected in NA, right?
Yeah,
At
in
least.
NA, it's, but
But
like
it legit happens in random points. In LPL, I think there was a random moment. It just
Yep.
happened.
Yeah.
There was like a pause or something. They're like, TSM. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, actually, I remember why now. Because one of the shit teams was playing that they're expecting will go out and TSM will come in. So they just started chanting TSM for them. But even like random like European finals and stuff, there's going to be a pause or a delay. It's like, okay, TSM.
Yeah.
It's
TSM,
just
you're
good
the one.
evidence. I mean, it's just good evidence that a solid built brand brings
Mhm.
or brings longevity and notoriety. I guess you call it notoriety, but
And to note on Rob's point, he said they're memeing it. Yeah, but guess what? All publicity is good publicity. Always
Yeah,
has
the
been,
truth.
always will
Hey.
be. And the people need to understand
Especially if you're
that.
David on Twitter.
Exactly.
God.
It is almost 11:30 though. I do need to wrap this up and get
Can
this.
I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you guys think was the like actual biggest downfall of NA so far?
What do you? In what context?
If there was something you would point to that like really starts putting the region behind,
What do you mean? Like
Immortals
play or like
2017.
branding or what do you mean?
just in general.
Immortals
The LCS.
2017.
Why?
When they came in and started overpaying players
Okay.
and inflating salaries to such a high level,
Mhm.
I think it entirely changed the culture of North America from that point
That's
on,
fair.
and made it
Yeah, I
entirely
actually really
about
much
money.
agree with that because I mean David can only really speak from 2017 onwards
Sure.
because he wasn't
Yeah,
really
that
a
was
fan of the LCS, but
Mhm.
I will say that being a fan who did in-person bar meetups to watch league games, not team particular, but we just have a group that does it in New York City. David still,
I run them now.
co-runs it or whatever. But I definitely agree that after that, you saw a marked change in like why people were there and what like the interest or the reason and just the level of, I guess,
Yep.
fandom, I guess you could call it. It really went downhill.
Great,
I
great
think-
comment in chat, by the way. Somebody said,
Mhm.
"Have we ever seen the games of Buffalo Wild Wings?" Well, my friend, that's how I got the statue. Because the story behind it is there was a Buffalo Wild Wings watch party up in the Bronx, up in New York. And for those that are not from here, public transportation is incredible. But to get to the Bronx from Midtown took about an hour and a half. I left work a little bit early, went up to the Bronx to go watch the game at the Buffalo Wild Wings there because I will always support in-person events anytime they're here. I think that's something that I tie myself to closely. I spent 45 minutes trying to explain to the manager how to put Twitch on the television. And even then, he could only get on the LCS broadcast or the LoL esports broadcast, which had like the clip or like the box of like tune into LCS stream to see the full thing. And eventually I just gave up. And I was the only person that showed up to that event.
Insane.
So I understandably bitched about it on social media, and Riot sent me a little care package.
Oh,
I think there's 2 points for me, besides yours, which is a really good point. I think removing relegation for me is always bad. Now I know that's the standard
Yeah, I
in
can
like
agree with that
all
too.
NA sports, is it?
Yeah. Almost every single North American sport, yeah.
Right. Whereas in Europe, I don't know of a single one that's the case. But anyway, I think that will immediately start messing with competition in a weird way, where your tier 2 is also less hungry.
I think
Because
the
there's not a
problem-
direct, oh, we're just going up. Go ahead.
I think the problem in EU and NA in the sense of whether it's relegations versus franchising
Mhm.
is that if you already have like a stable fan base like a lot of North American sports teams do, it's
Mhm.
okay to transition to franchising. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
if you're stable
Because
and
they're
you have something
stable.
established,
Yes, yes.
yeah. And the problem
Yes.
is that LCS transitioned when there was a comical lack of stability.
Mm-hmm. And that's the funny thing, by the way, because we talked about like European football teams being so like stable and like cultured. It doesn't matter. A team has been down 3 divisions and went back up and lost close to no fans. Actual real fans, because that's a part of their fucking journey.
And
It
it's,
might have actually
well,
gained some.
Yeah, but
Yes, because
also
then you're coming up like hyped up and hyped up and hyped up, and it's crazy.
But I will say the difference between that and esports is that
Mm-hmm.
there you're still providing value to a community
Yes.
in person, regardless of what level you're on. Like Wrexham was in the National League for God knows how long,
Mm-hmm.
or like 20 some years. But like people in the town still went out. Like it gave the town something to do.
It's your
An
team, yeah.
esports team being in tier 3 of North America does nothing for nobody. So
Yep.
there's no like the incentive to stay around is purely reliant upon the passion of the owner within the org, but nothing else. There's no other tie. If I have a team here in New York City, I'm playing games at OSNYC to try and build that so that people pay attention in tier 3 and go up. So similar thing, you have that sense of community because otherwise nobody's gonna give a shit.
Exactly. And I think the second part for me is specifically, I think History of Academy is C9TL being the top almost always, no?
Yeah.
I think when those two said they're done with it, I think that was a horrible blow for the LCS. Because also, I think there was a time where C9's Academy team, I think it was actually like one of their better scrim partners, which guess what? Pushes competitions. So it's just so good because you can practice whatever the fuck you want. And you can drill things because it's both your teams. Do stuff, do weird shit, try shit. And that helps push innovation. It helps push so much better just all aspects of the game and your team. You can mix and match players if you want. I don't care. Make them uncomfortable. The players need to get used to being uncomfortable. They're so babied. Holy shit. I don't know. But yeah, like those two factors for me, from like a coach standpoint, is like incredibly sad to see.
You just reminded me of that whole coach point of only
Mm-hmm.
in league are coaches just regularly not listened to. You know, like every other sport in this fucking world, the coach is like, here's what's happening, here's
Yeah.
how it's happening.
Fucking listen. Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's
And
because
like,
team owners put
only in
more
league.
It's also because
weight on
identities,
players.
though. It's also because if you think of this team, it's like, okay, I think of the head coach and these two stars. That's often how it is. In league, who do you think in terms of coaches?
Nobody.
When you think of a team, I can tell you probably the most would be like Mac with Mad Lions.
Yeah,
because he's been there forever.
Dylan Falco's
And before,
the one that I think of a good bit.
Who, sorry?
Dylan Falco, but he's the only other one.
Fair.
and
Yeah.
I think Reaper for a while. Reaper
Yeah,
was pretty.
Reaper. I will give Reaper credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had like Yamato with Fnatic for a long time, right? For example, sure.
Even
But
fucking what's
it's
his
rare.
face with Fnatic in the early days. Oh my god, what was his name? Duffman? No. Oh my god, you know who I'm talking about?
The bald guy who played poker,
Maybe?
Daylor.
Yeah, that's the one. Daylor. Yeah, as
He
being like
wasn't
a
there
hard
that
ass.
long. He was,
Right,
yeah,
right,
so he wasn't there that
but he
long,
had
but he made an
he had a
instant
reputation
impact.
of being
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or Young
Does
Buck,
it-
yeah. I don't remember which one.
Ooh, I
But one of
don't
them was
know
a
that
hard
one.
ass who had a cultivated reputation of being a
Yes.
hard ass, and for better or
Yes.
worse, that was how
Yeah.
every other coach runs games, and league is like, I want to be different.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't have to be like this, but I think we've seen it be just a good thing in sports. You have the fall guy, as stressful as that is, even though sports recently has been terrible with head coaches, by the way. The rate of them being changed all around in different sports all around the world is unbelievably awful, and it's putting a huge strain on head coaches' mental health and such. But yeah,
Team Liquid.
again, no.
You also
Another
can't- you
topic for
also
another
can't
day.
do-
But yeah,
you
'cause
also
that's
can't do
something I
anything-
care about a lot.
You also
But
can't
yeah,
do
they
anything long
corrected.
term. Like
Mhm.
you can't implement long term plans if you're
Yes, yes.
constantly fighting for your job.
You get a coach for 3 months. What do you expect him to fucking do?
You know, it's
I'm
it's
sorry,
actually
like,
it's funny. I might sidetrack you here, little David. I think I've spoken about this before. It's actually the reason that, and this is totally unrelated but also related. The reason that in the last 70 years, or no, wait, 50 years, the U.S. hasn't gone to the moon again is because every 4 years, the president coming in replaces the head of NASA, and they can't do anything more than 4 years
Fair
in
enough.
advance. And so it's literally like crystallized proof of if the person in charge of everything has no ability to make any long-term decisions to lead to any sort of long-term success for the organization, it's going to fail. And the objectives are going to fail. It's just so irritating.
I don't want to get into politics, but I think most countries hold their president for a while also, whereas that's not really the case in America,
Yeah,
which can also hinder a lot of things, right?
Yeah, it's
I
generally.
think it's
4
just
seasons.
generally a very specific example of just how, ramping the person you bring in and you say to them, run everything, run my whole shit, but by the way, don't make any decisions that have any sort of long-term impact. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's incredibly restrictive and just doesn't lead to real long-term success.
Yeah. Leadership and culture impact take time. They just take time. If you need things to get better and shift and things to properly get to how you want them, they take time. That's simple. Oh, bless you, David.
Thank God. I was gonna be really mad if that sneeze didn't go through.
Oh, I hear
Okay,
that.
so we are past
yeah.
11:30. I do gotta wrap this
Yes.
up. I gotta go spend
Good.
time with the wife. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Very welcome.
To those that came on later in the show, be sure to check it out tomorrow on Spotify and on YouTube. You can also check the VOD on Twitch that I'll make public tomorrow at the same time. If you want to see our discussion around Worlds, who we think's going to do well, who we think's not. I know we spent the majority of the last little bit talking about like LCS and culture, but it's relevant right now, and it's only going to become more relevant as time goes on. So expect more of those conversations to come. But any final thoughts from you guys before we head out?
Thanks for having me on again. It's been fun. It's been nice. It was also nice to meet someone new today. Sorry, I forgot your name, Blue. Forgot your real name. But yeah, it's been nice. And hey, go bother your NA teams if they want a good coach. Okay.
Will do. All right. Thanks, boys.
All right. Catch y'all later. Have a good one.